morning, good morning. Are we up and running? Another sunny day. There's patch cloud up there, so we'll see patches of shadow come across, but it's going to be a hot day. Forecast is for 0 rain. Another hot day. Paper is out. Ayumi-san is coming today. She's working on, do I have drum roll? She's working on the Nikko print. She did the key block yesterday, and I got up there and I filmed a bunch of it. It won't be for our YouTube video. This filming is for Taran-san. I'm putting stuff in the can because he's still not available to do some filming. But Ayumi-san has started work on the Nikko print. She's got a batch of 80 sheets or something in there. On the way, at last, on the way. And also, too, this means that she must have finished her previous job, which those of you might remember is ramen cats. They're in the drying boards upstairs. I haven't even opened them. So things are finally happening with the printing upstairs, although very, very, very slowly. Okay, what's going to be happening today? We had on the bench we have an issue with the camera here. We know how to fix this. Don't panic. Let me unplug it and plug it back in. We have a frame rate issue, I think, here with the main camera. Don't panic. We simply unplug, and I think we plug it back in, and that should take care of the frame rate. 1 sec. 3, 2, 1. We interrupt this broadcast. Is that better? Thank you. The continuation should be carving on the replacement block for the onsen print, but that's going to be put aside because another priority has come to bump it back. And those of you who've watched our streams before, you know, whenever this happens, every time this happens, it means subscription prints. Something has come up with the subscription print. So we have to do some color separations. We've been working on these separations off and on for the past couple of weeks. And Kawasaki-san returned to me yesterday the carved red block. You remember, you saw this on this bench. We prepared the blue sky, and on the back we prepared the red. I sent it off to her at the very beginning without waiting to do the rest of the color separations. A couple of days later, I sent off another block to her, a simple one, so that she would have something to do during the time that I have the red block back here preparing the next level of color separations. So that's what's going to happen today. A few more separations on the KJ5 print. We'll see. I'm just going to do 2 here this morning. If we have time to get those done, then we'll go back to the bath. But and as part of show and tell today, we have something else to show you. It's supposed to be top secret, but it doesn't matter as part of show and tell. Oh, and then before we get to the work, we have a quick package to open. We know what it is. Ready for yours? What's this? It's opened already. Chico. It's from Kubota-san. I don't actually remember what job he's doing. He finished the first batch of KJ4, and then we sent him this print. I don't remember what it is. I don't remember. It was something we were running out of in the shop, and they're on to me, get this back in stock, get this back in stock. He was free for a few days' work, so I sent these blocks. Oh, I know what it is. Car. So what I'm saying is, does Mokuhankan have a deal with the Postal Service because of the many shipments basically every day? You're talking about coming in or going out? Going out, we ship, I can't say hundreds every day. We ship thousands of prints per month, many of which go to the post office. We're tied very closely to the post office. Our computer system is tied through API to the post office computer system. So I'm not sure what you mean, coming in or going out. This coming in, you mean this is just the delivery service. It's this one. You all know this print. You've seen it many, many, many times before. One of our most popular prints in the catalog. Classic, absolute classic, absolute classic. Someone saying between the staff and the printers, we don't use the post office for those. That's the Black Cat service, the Yamato Takubin service. This is Kubota-san at his best. It's Korin, Ogata Korin. It's a bastardization of a design by Korin, but it makes a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful print. And Kubota-san can just ace this. I'm just, the dosa, the sizing is perfect. The printing is perfect. The paper is okay. There's going to be some of these that have chiri in the moon, so I will have to go through and pull those out. Just having a guy like this in our staff, you know. Talk about rich black where it needs to be rich, not a dot out of place. Smooth background. He's got a nice tint in the moon. There's a little bit of a glow. There's a pink glow in the moon there. He gets it just right. Some of the other printers slap it in here and it looks like some sort of silly fried egg. Who did the sizing on these? I did. The printers now. Ishikawa-san's doing all her own sizing. Aimi-san's doing her own sizing. Dei-chan's doing her own sizing in the summer. When we get to the autumn and winter, we'll start doing it again together because these guys are okay for the summertime. But for the outside printers, Kubota-san and Chiharu-san, there's nobody else to do the sizing. That's still me. It's okay. It has hugely helped my workload. I know the young girl, Yuki-san from China, she did her own sizing on a batch of prints yesterday. It is really, really helping. What's going to happen when we get to winter time, we'll see when we get there, but at the moment it's looking really, really good. I did a batch of paper yesterday for Chiharu-san, the next group of Great Waves. So I did the sizing on 60 sheets for Great Waves. This is so nice. Anyway, back in stock. If it's turned off, can somebody let me know? Is this turned off in our catalog? Because if it's turned off, I can now turn it back on. It's number 45 if you're looking in our online catalog. That's print number 45. Okay, now, how much can we explain here? Do I have a picture to explain what's going on? Okay, we do. Here's the print that we're making. This is the print that's under construction. This is one of the blocks for it. It may not look like it to the way you see it right now, but this is the block for what will be the red. If I click back, open it up again, this is the block for the red. So ignore the fact that it's pink and black for the moment. Look at the shapes. It's going to be a vermilion red color up at the top. Remember, this is reversed. We've got our right-hand side tree, left-hand side tree. Then down at the bottom, there are red leaves and stuff that have fallen on the ground, and then in the middle area. In order for me to do the color separation for the ground area, we had to know where the red was. And the red lines here are not on the key block. So we couldn't do our normal color separation. Here's a transfer from the key block. Now up at the top, we can figure out where the red is because the lines are there. But on the ground, we have no idea to figure out where it is. So what we're going to do today, we are going to do the transfer onto this sheet of the red lines. And this is going to become the sheet that will print the ground. And I'm going to paste it on the back of this one here that has the sky at the top. So it'll have the sky at the top and the ground at the bottom. Talk. Let's just try and do this. Someone's asking Suritaro. Yes, of course. At some point, these prints I've got here today, after I finish checking and doing chiritori, the prints will go to Ome. And what they do then, they start to get them packed, and they can see in their Ome stock how many prints are left from Suritaro. And then they will call me when they are ready to switch over. They'll say there's 5 prints left from Suritaro, and we will then watch, and after 3, 4, 5, whatever have done, we will change the website to read Kubota. If we remember. It sometimes happens we don't remember to do that. So sometimes the printer's name on the shop says printed by Suritaro, and actually the people get a copy by Kubota. I don't really think that's a huge problem. Whatever, we try and keep it accurate. On the prints themselves, absolutely. When there's a printer's name, it's an accurate name. All right, let me think about what I'm doing here, the best approach to this. What I need to do, just for this one we're doing right now, what I need to do is put a bit of ink, pigment, on these red spots at the bottom, print them onto this key block transfer, print, 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 print. That will show where they are. We then have to identify the line at the top, the line that defines the bottom of the wall on the top. I can draw that on by hand, and she will then carve that area. Okay, let me get my pigment. It's over there. I have to get up and reach it. Thank you. One sec. One sec. This is water. I'm just washing it. Someone says, does that mean there's going to be no more sizing streams? No, I don't think so at all. I will still be doing lots of sizing. I do all the sizing for the outside printers. That's Suritaro, Kubota, Mitamura-san, Chiharu-san. So there's still 4. Mr. K, Kawai-san. So there's 5 outside printers that I'm doing the sizing for still. So there will be lots of opportunities for sizing streams still. The Lies series had a nice color palette spread between prints. Rod-san, I saw your emails this morning. Thank you very much. I'm not sure what you mean here, the Lies series. What am I misunderstanding? The Lies series. What is that a typo for? You've got me there. I can't understand what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Now this box is going to be for printing red, and here Dave is scrubbing black all over it. It doesn't matter. We're just using Very, very light amount of black. It doesn't matter. It'll disappear into the wood. If I was going to be printing a bit of a lemon yellow or something, we might have trouble, but there's no trouble with this red. Okay, that's all we needed to do was transfer those dots. The current series, okay. You mean the Kyoto Journey series, you mean? You know, it's funny, I know what I would like to do with Jed, and it's just not possible. I would like to curate and establish each one of these series, the full series in advance. I would like to get 12 designs ready, work out an architecture, work out a color palette for the whole series. It would be the ideal goal for me on these print sets. But actually, that's not in any way the way it happens. They're coming together one by one by one. I have no idea what's coming next. Jed has no idea what's coming next. All we know is that roughly we try and get them sort of looking seasonal. But there's no architecture to this series as a whole. And to me, that's quite a defect. But it's part of what we do. These subscription series are, what's the word? I was going to say casual. They're not casual, but they're make it up as you go along. That's really how it works. It's like a newspaper. You subscribe to a newspaper. You know what you're going to get. You know what the concept is. What's the content of the story? Nobody knows. But it's sort of like that. So you know what's happening overall, but nobody. Questions, questions, questions. Did Yuki quit making that Takamizawa postcard print? It's not Takamizawa, it was Tansei Sha, the Tansei Do. And she's finished her job. The prints are waiting in Ome. They can't pack them yet because I haven't written the accompanying story to go with it. So I'm sorry, they're not available. The Hamamatsu print you're talking about, they're not available yet. It's waiting on my desk for me to do my part of the job. So I'm saying, how does the paper stay flat when you rub it on the block? There's no reason for it to dip. The paper itself, the one we're using right now anyway, for the one you just saw, the paper itself is fairly stiff and stays, and I only rub on the back. There's no pressure pushing it down. Look at this. If I hold the paper here, this is a fairly decent piece of paper. There's no reason for it to sag and go down the bottom. When we're printing with a very delicate wet paper, it would sag, and if we had a very, very wide area that was unsupported, we would put support underneath it. Chicken Master's got a really, really, really interesting question. How much was planned in advance for the 36 views of Mount Fuji or the 100 views of Edo? I would guess not much. I have no documentation on this, no knowledge, no research stuff, no old letters. I don't know. Capital I don't know, but I would guess not much. I would guess for a short series, Hakke, yeah, spread it out, 8 prints, you know what you're going to do. For the 36 views of Mount Fuji, no. It turned out to be 46 views. 100 views of Edo, Hiroshige's most famous series. How many are in there? 113? Okay, I'm going to search for an image to show you here. Just a sec. I'm going to ignore you for a minute while I go and look in the background. One sec. I've got to find an image here so I can show you what we're trying to do right now. Oh, I don't have it ready. I don't have it ready. One sec, I got to open Photoshop in the background. Excuse me a minute. To get the image of the color that we're trying to do here. I thought I had it. Ground, it's number 10. Image. crop, layer, flatten image, export JPEG. Sorry for the delay here again. What did I say this was? 10? Done. Close Photoshop, don't save. Okay, here we go. Let's pull it up now. Okay, thanks for your patience, sir. Okay, here's the Photoshop separation. We want to print a block for the ground, but we don't want to mess up the leaves. The leaves, of course, are going to be red, the ground is going to be dirty, and it's also going to have another shadow, and it'll have another gradation. So, this question about the publishers, of course it's case by case by case by case by case. There would have been series and sets that were carefully planned from the beginning. When they're doing a book, Utamaro's book, the Momochidori or something like this, absolutely I could imagine that was planned. We're going to do 13 pages, here's the bird for that page, here's the bird for that page. I am sure they were carefully planned projects. But I'm also sure that they were, let's try this and see how it flies and make it up as we go along. I'm sure they were also those kinds of projects. There's lots of stuff left from the old days where we have one or two from a series and none of the rest, but we don't know if they actually ended up publishing the whole thing. Absolutely, it's easy to believe that they would have bailed out partway along if something wasn't selling well. We're trying to establish the line where the ground ends and the wall begins, because that also is not on the key block. Some have the other shadows. There is another shadow, and it's going to cover some of the leaves. You can see behind where she's walking. In fact, on her legs, one of her socks is covered in shadow, the other sock is not. So what we're doing now is not the shadow on the ground. We are doing just the ground base tone, and it does not overlap any of the red, the fallen leaves. The red is going to be red, the ground is going to be the ground. And the other shadow will cover some parts of both. We'll deal with that when we get to that part. So now her carving is going to be simple. Carve everything in this area here, but leave out those blobs. There would have been an alternate way to do this. I could have sent her this sheet last week, and I could have asked her to carve the entire ground area, ignoring the leaves, just including the leaves. And then once she had finished carving that area, she could have sent the block back to me. And I could have then pasted on top of that carved block, I could have pasted what I just did, the leaf areas. That would have been another way to do this. She could have carved the zone first, and then we pull the leaves off it later. That would have been totally acceptable. In fact, now that I think about it, it might have been more sensible to do it that way, because what she could have done was she could have carved this block together. She could have carved the sky at the top and the ground at the bottom, and then popped them out later. That's part of what goes when you make it up as you go along. You miss opportunities for some collaboration. So we're going to paste this down on here. And the same block will have the sky and the ground on it. And before I paste it down, I better get rid of what's on there. I know, Mr. Rodzan, who's here, you asked before about the colors and stuff. I also got a series of emails this morning from the gentleman here called Rodzan asking about print parties. And it's a series of 3 emails outlining why I should return to doing print parties. And sir, I have to say, I'm sorry, it can't happen. It's not just that I'm against the idea and that I don't want it to happen. It can't happen. We just don't have the resources. And when I say resources, I mean people, staff. It's impossible. Absolutely impossible. And it's not a question of price. People have suggested raise the price, hire better people, hire more people. People are not available for that kind of work here in Tokyo at any price. We just don't have anybody here who could do that. We've tried to find them. We don't know how to find such people. It's impossible. It all came back to me. That last spring, in the spring of 2020, when the pandemic came, we were blocked solid and staff had left. Watabayashi-san had quit. Evelyn was gone. Audrey-san was gone. They couldn't do this day after day after day. Imagine like our schedule was booked solid. Party at 10, party at whatever the next one was, 1 o'clock, party at 3 o'clock, party at sometimes later, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. We were booked solid. Every day we got up, I came to the office, came to the work here. I got to do this. It was impossible. We were killing ourselves and it was killing me. We can't just do it. I'm sorry, sir. I know you want to do it. You didn't have your chance. Did we mention the good news that Terry McKenna is going to be doing it? He's preparing now. He's in Australia at the moment, but somewhere in October, I think he said October the 1st, around there was his target date. Terry and his wife are going to be running an experience very similar to what we did. It's not a copy of us. They're doing it in their own style, their own way. It's not just us too. I know the hotels in the area around here. When you walk around in the evening, you'll see the hotel, the Richmond Hotel, or the B Conte, or the whatever the one that used to be called the Red Planet. You walk along the street, and in the evening, when all the lights should be on, only half lights. You can see the dark floors. Floor 7, 8, 9, 10 is dark. There's nobody there. The hotels don't have the staff. So there's lots and lots of hotels here that are running at partial capacity. Okay, also, we are not going to get a magnificent full peel here. Forget the scorecards and forget the peels. This is a partial, tiny little scrap of gampi. I'm not sure the question. Have the motives been designed or are they copied from nature as precisely as possible? If you mean this current series right now, there's no precision here whatsoever. They are prints that are intended to catch a mood of a particular place and or a general place and or time. There's no precision happening here on this series at all. But I'm not actually sure what you're talking about too. So you see it. Can we do this? 2 colors on 1 block? Yes, we have our sort of 2-finger, 3-finger rule, depending on how you speak it. The printer later, after these are all carved, the printer will simply rub blue pigment for a blue sky and print it, and then the printer will also rub darker pigment for the bottom area. This is absolutely perfect. There's no intertwining. They're separated enough for the printer. Someone's asking what happens to the old print blocks. We don't have old print blocks. Our print blocks are our capital. The one that is going to be carved this week to make this print will become an important part of Mokuhankan's capital. We don't do limited editions. We're going to make 200 copies or so of this to start off. The blocks will then go back on the shelf, and very soon they will come out to have another 200 copies, and another 200 copies, and then another 200 copies. These blocks are carefully stored, carefully curated, carefully preserved. We use them all the time. Okay, that's done. You're still, scoring my peel. Forget it. Okay, there. This now goes back to Kawasaki-san. She's already finished this one. She will now do the back side. Now, what time is it? 8:32. How to use the rest of our time here today. I have this same job that you just saw me doing. I have a bunch more to do. I have paper to do more transfer sheets. I have printed out more areas to transfer. In fact, here's the one we looked at a few minutes ago. The shadow on the ground. That needs to be done. We have the shadows inside the leaves. That'll need to be traced, so I've got to go up to a light box for that, which I don't have here on my desk. This one, shadows on the wall. More shadows on the wall. I think, we're going to put this aside. I think we're just going to go back to carving. Give me the block and let's just carve. To do this means sitting here fiddling, talking about it. I just want to do some peaceful work for the rest of today's stream. Let me put this aside. Sa. Questions. Am I missing questions? Of course. The block storage for us? No. We wrap it in newspaper, just like you see this. The blocks get wrapped in newspaper, and we don't stand them like this. They stand up. They get wrapped in string, and they stand up over in the Ome workshop. And they're open to the air like this. They're not sealed. In summer, they absorb moisture because it's moist, and in winter, they dry out. In summer, they expand. In winter, they dry out. They just sit there like this. And they do fine. They will last a very, 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 very long time. I don't even know how many we are. We should count one day. I haven't a clue how many blocks we have. Oh my God, how many blocks do we have? No idea. Someone says, won't they crack with expansion and contraction? Maybe eventually they will. That's life when you're a piece of wood. In the short term, they don't. They just absorb more water and they dry out the same amount of water. Where they will crack is if we leave a block on the floor in the printer's room upstairs. They have an air conditioner up there. And every night when the printers are finished work, they take their blocks they're using and they take them out of that room, because the blocks there are really, really dangerous to be in an air-conditioned room, and that's when they'll split. They take in that room only the block they're using. The rest of the blocks stay outside of the room. And also it's dangerous here. You know, we had trouble here. My desk here is in an air-conditioned room. The shop is air-conditioned. And it's really not so good. This has been sitting on this desk here. And it's really not a great environment for this. I wouldn't be surprised actually at some point to find that one of my blocks here that I've been carving on has split from the air conditioner. There's very little, just simply it's a piece of wood. It's like your furniture, the desks and chairs in your house, the furniture. It expands, picks up moisture during the summer, it lets it out during the winter. It's a piece of wood. That's what you get when you're a piece of wood. That's why they make dining room tables. If you look under your dining room table, you'll see the cross pieces are not screwed in all the way. They're allowed to slide because your dining room table needs to expand and contract. Okay, let's find the spot. Where am I? Where were we? We're leaving off. We're somewhere around right here. Is that going to do it for us? Okay, I'll shut up a bit. Let's do some peaceful work. This morning over the pool, I didn't have a good day, I was a little late. I was rushed because it was a stream day and I didn't do my full kilometer. I only did 32 lengths, so 800 meters. And it was like swimming through molasses. I don't know why. The lady who swims in the same lane as me, she passed me 3 times and she must be thinking, oh, Granddad's having a tough time today. I don't know, there's days when I sail through it and there's days when it's a struggle, and today it was a struggle. I don't know if it's related to like the diet, what I ate last night. Did I overeat and that way your body is logy, or I didn't get enough protein or something? I don't know how it works, but some days at the pool I zip along and some days it's the opposite. I felt 99 years old in the pool this morning. On this block, we are not carving too deep. At the moment, we're doing tiny V's, you know. That's all we're doing at the moment. We're not going deep. There's no purpose to go deep in a hole. That's just more space to fill up with paste, you know. A lot of people in the pool, no. Like 2 people in my lane, 1 guy in the next lane, 1 guy in the next lane. High gravity days. I don't think that's a joke, is it? I don't know. Nanda. At least if I have a bad day, simply whatever, you know, at the end of the course, I drag myself out of the water, head for the showers. That's it. But I can't imagine having a bad day when you're rock climbing. Sorry, I don't know. What I should remember here, though, is too, when we did the first version of this, when I cut the first one, you saw it in the video, I just cut through the lines as they were. We're using, for this version, we're using the same original hunched up. So what I have as a master copy here is exactly the same as the first one. But I've also got to remember that when we did the original block, we did come back some months after it and widened out a few of the places because the printers were really having trouble with paste building up. I've got to remember that now because I'm starting with the same master copy and I'll make the same sort of quote mistake, unquote. If I leave some of these places a bit too narrow, we'll have the same thing. So I think what I'm going to do is rather than go whole hog and open these all up, I'm going to stick with the master. If I see something that I think is really a bit too thin, then I'll open it up. But I'm not going to go whole hog at it. And we'll do some test printing. We'll give this to one of the printers upstairs, ask them to do a test, and we'll see. And then we'll look for specific areas that might be dangerous for paste buildup. So we'll see how it goes. This is camellia oil, helps, you know, even though the paper is extremely thin on this wood, putting a bit of camellia oil will help the visibility. You can see. Okay. No oil on this side, bit of oil on this side, the lines just stand out. The last scrap of paper goes completely transparent. Someone's saying, what's the zoom on the scope? I don't know the specific setting. It's very light. When I sit here and look down, we've talked about this before, it's really hard. I put my finger under there, I look inside there, look here. My finger is not twice as big as it is in real life. We're not even getting 2 by. Maybe 1.5, it's hard to say, I don't know. We've cut it down. I know we've talked about this many times. This scope is capable of, you know, like inspecting bacteria or whatever. Well, not that far, but whatever. But we've got a reducing lens. I've got a lens on the scope here. Is it going to show? I've got a special lens of 0.5, not a 5 by, an 0.5. And this makes it go backwards. It makes the areas under the lens smaller rather than bigger because I need to see more surface area. The purpose here is not to see microscopic slivers of wood. The purpose is to get a stable view here. Slightly enlarged from reality, but mostly simply a stable view and a stable focus. the other advantage of the scope for these streams is that it puts everything right in the view of the camera and it doesn't move around. And you saw earlier when I was doing that tracing, it was hard for me to keep it in the proper place under the view of the camera. I was moving all over the place. And if we were carving without this, it would be the same thing. Just I'd be all over the map. It'd be hard for you to watch what I was doing. So that's actually one of the main benefits of using this scope. You know, it puts everything right there under the camera. It keeps me in the same zone. So. Are we wriggling the knife in the line? I'm trying to follow the ripples. I'm not making this up as I go along. The lines that are on the block here, they are rippled. I don't know if you can see them. I'm trying, sort of. I mean, it doesn't matter exactly. I'm not going like this. Check, 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 check. But I am trying to follow as much as I can. Here it goes up. There's a hump there. There's a cut. There's a down. There's a hump. I'm sort of trying to follow the rippliness of the line. Doesn't need to be microscopically followed, of course, says he with a microscope, but you know what I mean. Which is a print here and which is postage stamp. We have a show and tell today, and it's something really, really different. Really, really, and as in really, really different. And it's something, it's worthy of a conversation that could go on for a long, long, long time. It's going to be hard to cover it just in 15 minutes. But we'll introduce the topic and the prints, and maybe we'll come back to them later if there's other things to talk about later. But they're prints that you may have seen before. When I received this batch of prints, 6, 7, 8 years ago, we may have shown them at that time. You haven't seen them since then. Learned a little bit more about them since that time. And it's not our usual show and tell today, but interesting, I think. It's not one of those shows from hell. That's not the idea. I'm not going to do that again for quite a while. That's not the point. They're going to look at some interesting prints. But we're looking for time, right? What's our time? Mada. Okay. Happy 6-year Twitchiversary. Is it? You mean like is in today? Is it really? Karen said, do you know something I don't know? 26 years. What's this? 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 27. Yeah, you're right. It was 2017. It was the summer of 2017 we started. Yes. Twitch channel creation date was August 21st, 2017. I didn't know that. Yeah, now that I think about it, you're right. You're right, you're right. This month, actually, there's tons of anniversaries. The stuff I can't talk about. Absolutely, I can't talk about. And that year, 2017, my God, that was a year. That was the year Cameron joined us. In fact, just at this time, August, that was about the time when I was interviewing Cameron. He came with us that September. And August must have been when I was talking to Cameron. It took a while. He and I had to go back and forth. It wasn't a sort of a one-shot quick decision. I don't even remember. Jed had heard that we were looking for people. Jed-san introduced me to Cameron, and I went to visit him, and he came and visited me, and we went back and forth. And we sort of danced around for a while because we weren't sure about a couple of things. But yeah, that's when Cameron joined us, was that fall, late summer of 2017. So that must mean, of course, that means that was the beginning of the Patreon campaign. Because that spring, I had come to the end of my tether. I was staggeringly overloaded with work. And yet we really didn't have much cash at all at that point. We didn't have many resources. We had lots of work, so there was orders and things coming in, but we had priced everything way too low. I wasn't taking a salary. And there really wasn't a bunch of resources. So the idea that we needed someone to help me do the work, the bookkeeping and the subscription management and stuff like that, was all very well, but there was sort of no revenue for it. We thought that if I could get a helper, it would create revenue, which would pay for the helper, but I had no way to promise this person I could, pay a salary. And that was the instigation between the Patreon. So right there, so earlier that summer, if you've checked your Twitch startup time, if you check the Patreon startup time for us, it must be somewhere around the same, right there in that summer. And the other crazy thing that happened right there in June or July in 2017 was the YouTube algorithm discovered us. And I think I got the date, it was June 23rd or something like that. I think at one point I had the date engraved in my mind. We had a YouTube channel and it was kind of light and there was a few things. People wasn't getting much traction. And I was in hospital. I woke up one morning to an inbox with more than 5,000 mails in it. Because what had happened was with YouTube, there was a setting that said, notify me when someone subscribes to this channel. And I thought that was cool. Every day I got 2 or 3 notifications. XXY has subscribed to your YouTube channel. And it was kind of fun, whatever, it didn't matter. And then one morning I woke up and there was more than 5,000 emails in the box. And they were all this. So I quickly go to YouTube and turn off that notification thing. And that's the night that YouTube decided to put us on the right-hand side and to start recommending us to people. And it was, my memory says June 23rd, 2017. But that could be wrong because it could get scrambled by now. So everything happened that summer. My dad had died in February 2017. Something else happened to me in June 2017. We started the Patreon. We hooked up with Cameron. We started Twitch. It was an astonishing year for us. It was the year when almost everything collapsed and when everything got picked up and put back together. It was an incredible time, summer of 2017. There's stuff I still actually can't talk about yet, or don't want to talk about yet, but whatever. So that's the anniversary. Thanks, Karen, for the reminder. I didn't get that. So. Summer of 2017. I was 65, I guess. Yeah, I was 65. Actually, John here, John, one of our mods here, he was here that summer. I remember that now. He was here that summer or that autumn. He was in the middle of part of that stuff. Coming along, coming along. Someone's actually new YouTube video when. New YouTube video when. I'm firefighting, sir. I know the new YouTube video, a lot of the video is in the can already. It's waiting for me to edit and put it together and do an intro and get it edited. My life at the moment though is firefighting. Every morning I get up and it's firefighting, firefighting, firefighting. You know. Firefighting. Now these open out, these ripples, of course, this thing has perspective, and I've got to make sure I own it, I get what's going on here. When I started carving this the other day, I started at the top. And of course, the thing has perspective. The guy who drew this was really, really careful with this. And these lines at the top are thinner, and the lines at the bottom are, of course, they're more open, and they have less actually little jiggly ripple. They have smoother ripples. And there's a perspective just in these little thin lines that go on. So I said I'm opening up a few of them a little bit to make sure they're not too thin, but I've got to be careful that I don't screw up that perspective. So anyway, let's keep on here. How's our time? 8:58. We're still okay. There's something else on it, not related to our work here today, whatever, but Karen reminded this of me by talking about the anniversary, the Twitch anniversary from 2017. This year also for me personally coming up, this autumn, September, October, somewhere on there, I don't remember the exact date. I was talking to somebody about a topic completely different. Oh, it was in the shop. We were talking about, somebody had started the usual thing, Dave, you're so courageous to quit your job and come to Japan, all that kind of stuff years ago. And I'm like, it wasn't courageous, it was just what I needed to do at the time. But the conversation then became around jobs. I had quit my job to come to Japan. And this was 37, whatever it was, in 1986. I had quit my job that spring to come to Japan. And it was actually, the job I had there was really the only job I had ever had. When I was younger, high school, college, and dropout years, I did a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. I fooled around with a bunch of different things. But I've only ever once in my life had an actual job, as in going to a company and becoming an employee and getting a paycheck every month, or every 2 weeks back then. I got $125 every 2 weeks, the first job. So I've only ever been actually employed in a full-time position once. Yet it was 3 times. I was employed by the company, I quit. I came back a few years later, worked for a few years, quit. They came back a few years later and worked for 5 years and then quit. But it was simply, there's only one company I ever worked for. And long story short, it turns out that this fall, September, October, is the 50th anniversary of Dave getting his only ever full-time job. It's 50 years. And it had come about as part of this conversation with the guy in the shop. You know, I left that company in 1986, and I had joined them in 1973, 50 years ago. It's 50 years of the date of Dave's entrance to slavery. It wasn't slavery. He was a decent man. It was a good place to work. But it was a job, which I will never, ever, 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 of course, do again. 50 years. $125 every 2 weeks. These were Canadian dollars, I guess at the time, I don't remember. My first and last job. I started as stock boy. I remember the first day, you know, we were in the warehouse there. There's shelves full of sheet music everywhere. Trucks had dumped stuff into the warehouse. It was unsorted. There were stacks of sheet music everywhere. Piles falling over, phone ringing with orders. School teachers, where's my copy of such and such? And it was absolute, total chaos. And I was in seventh heaven. Organize this, get going, put the stuff on the shelves. What do we have? Get it organized. You know the alphabet? Yes, sir. Dave knew the alphabet. I was in seventh heaven. I was 22. I was 22. Yeah, that was flute era, Dave. Actually, that was the end of the flute era. Now, before this, I had really still thought I was going to be able to become the best flute player in the world. And it overlapped, Dave, the rundown of David's flute career when he realized he wasn't actually the best in the world, or not even close to it, and the beginning of the employment era at a music shop, you know, of course. So I missed two people waving at the camera. Okay, well, thank you. Whatever. Were they streaming? Showing us this stream on their phone. So they're watching the stream walking down the street. Maybe there are people who will be back here this morning at 10 o'clock when we open. Phone streaming shows himself showing the stream. Yes, Soka. Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry I missed you, whoever you are. Maybe you'll be back later this morning to say hello. Okay. You should have knocked on the door. If you're watching the stream, why didn't you knock on the door already? Drop in guest. People are sometimes too polite. It's okay. If they were watching, why didn't they knock on the door? They know how informal this is. If you're still out there, if you're still listening, I'm okay. We do actually get this quite a lot. I don't mean outside, I don't notice that. But the people in the shop come in during the day and they say they were watching the stream this morning. This is very, very, very frequent. You know, not every time, but quite frequent. Oh, so somebody's here. I'd hate to interrupt. We got to chat with you last week, David. Okay, as you wish then. Thanks very much. Okay. Thank you. Oh, the visitors and visitors. It's so much fun, you know, this last, since we opened up again in October, it's been so much fun, a ton of fun. Sometimes exhausting, visitors, but it's been a ton of fun. Okay, that one's going to go out the other way, so let's hold off on that one for a moment. Skip the corner, come back up. Yoisha. The line behind the stamp is indeed going to be freehand. And I think that's what I did last time, Michelle. I don't really remember what I did last time. I'm sure I just did it freehand. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's totally okay. I think we're going to have, there's a line behind the stamp right here, and there's another one here. And I think this one comes up into the stamp. So there's at least 3 places here where it's... so maybe I'll put a little pencil guide there first, and then freehand. We're well within our legal parameters there, I think. I got that Cheers up in the printer's room yesterday. There was only one lady there, Aimi-san. She was working on the Nikko print. I did some filming for a video, but when she asked me what I was carving and I told her this, she's cheering, yay, get rid of that old block. So they really, really, really don't like that one, It's a bit of a paradox, I didn't think it was so bad, but nobody else in the building here feels that they want to print with it, so. So up to now, probably on this print, it's been a bestseller, but probably, perhaps, I have no real way to tell this. We've probably lost money on it actually up to now, because of the huge number of spoiled prints, the loss of paper. And, we pay the printers anyway, even when things don't work out quite so well. They get paid from our Trini Premium Fund, So the money that we've actually lost on that old block, I have no idea. So maybe now this print can take its normal place in our catalog as a decent item and a profitable item for us, I guess. We okay for time? Are we okay? Oh, someone says get the original key block. We talked about this and I was supposed to do that. We talked about it on the last stream. I'll try. If somebody sends me an email to remind me, I'll bring it down and put it on the bench. But yes, I was supposed to do that. Oh yeah, the piece of dirt with the needle. It's a bit of rust. Z and Verstuiving. There's a backstory here that the rest of you don't know. The story here about the Fuji Arts chrysanthemum print. This person can tell you as much as they want, and I know. Somebody had a chance to get one of our older prints there. I don't quite know how. One of our not so good reject prints had somehow been released out into the world, and I'm still not quite sure how that happened. And it was for sale on Fuji Arts. And I wrote to them asking, how did you get that print? And nobody answered me. I didn't expect them to tell me, but I thought I would have had the courtesy of a reply. No such luck. Okay, just finish this line, and it must be show and tell time, right? Let me get to the end of this line here. Okay, that'll do. Okay, so for those of you who are new here, for the last 15 minutes of this stream, we're going to change topics, and we are going to see something else. You're talking about the rust problem. To my knowledge, the chrysanthemum prints did not have a rust problem. They were made over in my house in Ome. This was 1 or 2 years before we discovered that rust problem on the great wave prints. And those rusted great waves were printed in Kubota-san's workshop, in his old workshop. He's long ago moved out of there now. So I don't have a history of rust problems with our chrysanthemum print, but there you are, there we had one. So I don't know. I'm still curious, how did that print get released from here? It wasn't signed, didn't have any identification marks on it. It is clearly mine, and Fuji Arts got it from somewhere. Okay. Show and tell. Okay, let's do the thing here where I zoom out, because we're going to need some space here. Let me get rid of the flask. This has become a thing. Let me get the flask out of the way here. Chuk, choo, chuk, chum. I hear somebody going up the stairs. Who came in the door? Did you notice? Was it Aimi-san for printing? Yamada-san? Can't be Ayano-san. She's out of town still. Who came in the door? So someone says, we need a pulley system for the flask. Nay. Okay, clear the decks. Okay, excuse me. We have for show and tell today something, I gotta say, is almost probably going to be completely unexpected. Let's have a look. Hands up, all who know what these are. The packaging material actually is dead already. The bag that this thing is in is no longer a bag. It's decaying as we look. The inside, I hope the inside will not be decaying quite as badly as the outside packaging is decaying. Oh, it's upside down. Okay, you probably already know what is going on here. Some of you have seen this. The first two characters here tell us what's going on. This says Chugoku, China. These are woodblock prints from China. These are not Japanese prints. I can't read all the Chinese, not at all. Some stuff I can read. We have Mokuhankan woodblock, so some of this. We have collection, shu. There's various characters I can read and some characters I can't read. Whatever, I'm not here to read Chinese. First there's a confession to make. This is a box of prints that was sent to me by a foreign gentleman who was living in China with the idea that we were going to not buy prints from him for our shop, but that we were going to collect some of the prints from the workshop that he was over there helping to support. And this gentleman sent over the box of prints that I was supposed to pay for. And then one thing led to another. I was busy that month. Actually, it's probably the same time period we were looking at back in 2017. And I ended up losing his Connect information. So I actually owe a gentleman, I think it's an American man, or he might have maybe been English, living over in China, working with some people in a Chinese printmaking workshop to help publicize, promote, and support their work. He sent me this box of prints, not as a gift, but as I was supposed to pay for them. And then it didn't happen, and I actually have still never paid for them, but I don't know who he is. So if this gentleman is out there, he probably now thinks I'm not such a nice person because I took the prints and never got in touch with him. It wasn't actually, it was just my own incompetence. It wasn't any evil intent. Anyway, long story short, let's look at the prints. I still haven't paid for these. I owe somebody for them, and I would like at some point to take care of that. It's a commemorative set of Chinese woodblock prints. And we have a certificate of authenticity. I mean, not to be sarcastic and cynical about it, but same in Japan. When we see these print sets in Japan, the more fancy the box, the better the box, the more fancy the certificate, the more junk the prints are. Now, I know almost nothing about Chinese woodblock prints, so I don't know if these are glorious examples of Chinese culture or if this is tourist schlock. I really don't know. But what we're going to look today is we're going to look at a couple of Chinese woodblock prints and learn something about how different they are from Japanese prints. Not in the sense of Japanese prints are so glorious and wonderful and look at this awful stuff. The point being, we're going to look at some of the things that are different between Chinese woodblock prints and Japanese woodblock prints. And I have a couple of theories here about how some of these differences have arisen, but I don't know really enough about Chinese prints to be able to think. Anyway, first let's just look through some of the prints. Now, first off, this is a very different type of printmaking. You saw the prints I showed you from Kubota-san before. They're on a thick, luscious Japanese washi. They're all exactly the same. The concept of making the Japanese prints is very different. These prints that we're going to look at today, they're more of a folk art. Now, they're not a folk art in that something that was made by the people. These were made by an actual woodblock printmaking workshop, and they would have done all over the centuries. But they are made for a casual use. A lot of these will be what's it called? You get a picture, and you come the New Year time, whatever, you go outside your house and you stick it on the wall, and the particular character in here helps ward off evil spirits, and then the rain comes and washes it away and it doesn't matter. So these are not beautiful presentation landscape prints. These are prints for more of a casual folk use. And the concept is different. They are multicolored woodblock prints. There's a key block, and there are color blocks. Now, they don't have the same delicate kind of registration that we have in Japanese prints, but obviously this wasn't the idea. And part of the reason they have gone a different way is the paper. Chinese woodblock prints are made on a very, very, very thin type of paper. I think a generic term for it would be hanshi, calligraphy type paper. If you've done any kind of calligraphy practice, or if you've seen any thin Chinese paper, it comes in packages. It's extremely thin. It's made sort of the same way that Japanese paper is, not from the same raw materials, but there's screens and rocking, and it comes off the screen, and there you are. And the paper has the bamboo screen marking on it. But it's extremely thin, which means you really can't do multiple colors stacked on top of each other the way that Japanese prints work. So there's a really interesting, it's a tree with two big branches here. These guys had it first, woodblock printmaking and color woodblock printmaking. Absolutely. The earliest examples are way, million years, lots of years earlier than the Japanese ones. And then at some point, some of these prints must have made their way across to Japan, and people here saw the idea, oh, we can do this in color. Let me think about how to do that. And they worked out their own technology for doing it. But because the paper in China was this extremely thin paper, and a great deal of paper in Japan was a thick, rich, more luscious type of paper, then when people tried making prints in Japan on Japanese paper, it turned out that because the paper was so much more strong and so much stronger, you were able to make things like tight registration, and you were able to put colors on top of each other. Things that couldn't be done on the Chinese system because it was such thin paper. The way they register these is hugely interesting. It's not done with the corner mark on the block. I should have prepared a graphic for you here. It's hard to describe in words. Let me try and describe this in words. Ken-san, good morning. Imagine two tables side by side with a gap between them. Imagine a stack of paper on one table that is all falling down into that gap. And the stack of paper is hammered with a nail, so it's all just in place. The stack of paper is nailed in place, it's all dry paper, and it's falling through that gap. Now, flip the stack of paper back up, flip it up out of the way, it's all nailed in place. On the other table, which is movable, you have a piece of wood with this red shape carved on it. It's just stuck to the top of the table. They used rosin or tree gums and stuff like this. You stick it down there, you bring a sheet of paper across, and you move the tables until you sort of get them lined up. You pull the paper out of the way. Now, you rub red pigment on this thing with a Chinese brush, flip one sheet of paper, rub it on the back with some sort of Chinese rubber, and then you take your sheet of paper, put it down in the gap, out of the way. You now put ink again on the red, pull the next sheet of paper off, and you go through this stack. You've got 100 sheets that were nailed to the table. And you go through them one at a time, printing them and dropping them into the gap. Now each one, because the stack is curved over, the red on each one of these things moves. So paper number one, the red would be here, paper number two would be here. But it doesn't matter because you keep the same order. After you're done, you flip them back onto the table, take your red block away, and bring your yellow block in. It's really, really, really a cool system. It doesn't allow the perfect, delicate registration that the Japanese stuff does, but it does the job. And as I said, this was sort of folk art. It was sort of disposable. You put these up on the door after the New Year. The spirits had been kept away. Everybody was good to go. It's really, really a cool system. I know there's people doing it over in China still today. If you look up on YouTube, you can find some people doing it. But the question that I would like to pose, and one that I really don't have an answer, and it's a little bit of a dangerous question, because it starts moving into territory about people in this country or people of this group and people of this group. Why do we do things in different ways? Well, the answer here, why Chinese printmaking went this rough way, why Japanese printmaking went the super control freak way, is there something inherent in the two cultures that made this happen? And it's a hugely, hugely, hugely interesting question with no single answer, obviously. I've answered part of it in that I said Chinese prints being made on thin paper will never be able to have tight registration. Japanese prints made on thick paper can do tight registration. But is there something in the culture of the two countries that says Chinese stuff is going to be rough and Japanese stuff is going to be carefully made? I really don't know. What I do know is this. There's something else I'm going to show you to close off. If you take a person from that culture where printmaking is rough, 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 and you put that person into a Japanese culture where the printmaking is delicate, 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 what do you get? Now we have at the moment 2 Chinese people working for us. Yuki-san upstairs, you haven't seen much of her work yet, looks okay. But we also have Chon-san, Zoi Wai-chang. He's born in Hong Kong. He's been now here in Japan for about 10 years. And he has been drinking and drinking and drinking and studying and studying and studying how to make Japanese woodblock prints. He's a carver. I got some prints from them the other day. This is top secret. This is the 5th print in the Hokusai series that we're publishing with the British Museum. And the print is beyond belief, drop dead, stunningly well made. And we're going to have a real problem in that Chon-san has carved so magnificently and so difficultly, our printers are just going to say, I give up. Every dot, every line, I say this the same every single time. Every dot, every line. This is a combination. This print is made by the 2 of them. It's been carved by Chang-san, Zoi Wai-chang, and it's been printed by his partner, Dei-chan. I forget her name in Chinese. Wei Ling. I can't remember her name in Chinese. I'm sorry. We call her Dei-chan. And these 2 people came to us from Hong Kong 7, 8 years ago. Are blowing away everybody else in this building. They've blown me away long ago. They've blown away Asuka-san. And yet these 2 young people, they grew up in this tradition. This is print number 5 in our series. They did printmaking before, yes, before they came here. We're going to have so much trouble printing this, you know. Dei-chan prints it, but our other printers are going to look at this and say, Dave, what have you done? What have I done? Incredible, incredible, astonishing work. I don't know if I've bitten off more than I can chew with this series. I don't know. But this is Chon-san. Absolute incredible work. The 2 of them together, Chon-san and Dei-chan. Okay, whatever. Enough for now. Today's Thursday. I'll see you in 2 more days. I will either be doing carving on the girl in the onsen, or I'll maybe be doing some more color separations. And then notice Monday, 4 days from now, is a guest stream. A young lady from the Netherlands will be here as a guest. That'll be 4 days from now on Monday. Okay, I am out of here. Let's put up the outside camera. Look at this. It's gonna be so hot. Okay, guys. Thanks very much. See you later.